Your required minimum distribution isn't just a single withdrawal. It's going to trigger a penalty of up to 25% of whatever you didn't take out if you miss it and don't fix it in time. And even when you do take it, that RMD can push you into higher income tax brackets. It can make more of your Social Security taxable and even bump up your Medicare premiums. But here's the thing, this doesn't have to be your story. Today, we're going to walk through exactly what an RMD is, why it matters, and most importantly, how to avoid these mistakes before they cost you thousands. Hi, I'm Jason. After working with hundreds of retirees over the past 13 years, I've seen this RMD problem play out over and over again. Now, people think that they've done everything right. They've worked hard, they've saved, but when 73 rolls around, they get blindsided. So today, we're breaking down three things. First, what an RMD actually is and how it gets calculated. Second, why one RMD decision can trigger a chain reaction of taxes that you never saw coming. And third, why your tax deferred account itself, like an IRA, has built in tax issues that most people don't see coming and what you can actually do about it. But before we go any further, I want you to do something. All right. So, quick homework item, write down all of your tax deferred accounts. So, just take out a sheet of paper and what can be these tax deferred accounts? It can be an IRA, it can be a 401k, a 403b, a 457A, deferred compensation plan, etc. So just write them down. We're going to refer to this list again here shortly. And I want to share a story about Patricia. She retired at age 64 with a really solid nest egg. And honestly, she felt like she was in a really good place. So she figured she had done the hard part already. She had saved consistently. She had built up the account. She had paid off her home even. And so she didn't think that she needed to do much proactive planning after that. She just let the account sit and grow. Then she fast forwarded a couple of years. She turned 73 and her first RMD hit. And like I said, Patricia had done a great job saving. In her IRA, she had $1.5 million, and that came out to about $56,000 of her required minimum distribution. So she took it like she was supposed to. And that same year, she wanted to take a nice trip to Alaska with her family. So she needed about $15,000 for that. She also had to end up renovating her bathroom. So that was another $10,000. And she ended up helping her granddaughter with a down payment on a car. And that was another $5,000 more. So she had her RMD and she had these other distributions, these other withdrawals. And then April rolled around and her tax bill showed up and it was brutal. That $56,000 RMD plus all of those other withdrawals pushed her into a much higher tax bracket and it made more of her Social Security became taxable. And now, because her income spiked, because that RMD and all those withdrawals pushed her into those higher tax brackets, she ended up getting hit with something called IRMAA, Income Related Monthly Adjusted Amount, which means that her Medicare premiums jumped up another $300 a month. All told, in her case, it added up to roughly $15,000 more in taxes and Medicare costs than she expected. Now, these are simplified numbers, but the pattern is very real. She missed the opportunity to do proper planning. So here's the question for you. Do you have a plan for withdrawing money whenever you need it? In other words, do you know which account you're going to pull from and what effect that is going to have on your taxes? If the answer is yes, then great, you're in good shape. But if the answer is no or you're not sure, then there's probably some work that you need to do. So let's talk about why this happened, and it comes down to how RMDs actually work. When you turn age 73, the IRS requires you to withdraw a minimum amount from your tax deferred accounts each year. And those can be something like mentioned before, an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, etc. That amount is calculated by taking your account balance from December 31st of the prior year and dividing it by a life expectancy factor. So if you don't take your full RMD by December 31st in the year in which you are supposed to, you owe a penalty of up to 25% of whatever you did not withdraw. So now let's go back to that list that you wrote down, all of your tax deferred accounts. For each account, ask yourself, did you get your RMD notice from the company telling you what you have to take out of that account for the year? Now, different custodians handle these notices differently, so never assume that just because there's silence or maybe you didn't get notification, that means that you don't have an RMD. If you didn't get a notice, just call them directly. That's the easiest, straightforward way to get the information right from the source. Or if you want to do it yourself, you're going to want to take the account balance of each of those tax deferred accounts based on December 31st of last year and then divide it by the number on the IRS Uniform Lifetime Table. Just know that it can get tricky if you're not used to doing this type of calculation. Here's where it gets serious. That RMD isn't taxed in a vacuum. It gets added to everything else that you're earning. So, your Social Security, any pensions that you may have, investment gains, and the like. So, that total income determines three things. Number one, what tax bracket you land in. Number two, how much of your Social Security becomes taxable. And number three, whether or not you trigger IRMAA and how much your Medicare premiums go up. So when Patricia took that $56,000 RMD, she didn't just owe taxes on the 56,000. That money pushed all of her other income into higher brackets. It made more of her Social Security taxable and it triggered thousands in additional Medicare costs. One withdrawal decision created a domino effect across her entire financial picture. Now, most people think the problem is the RMD itself, but that's not the case. The real problem is the account that it's coming from. Here's what I mean. Every dollar you save falls into one of three buckets: the tax deferred bucket, the taxable bucket, or the tax free bucket. Your tax deferred account, your traditional IRA, your 401k, your 403b, has built in tax issues that most people don't see coming in retirement. And here's why. Every dollar you withdraw stacks on top of all of your other income, so those dollars are often taxed at some of your highest rate. Second, the IRS forces you to take withdrawals starting at age 73, and this is whether you need the money or not. You don't have control of when you can sell or when you need to take money out. Third, it's often one of the least tax efficient accounts to leave to your heirs. When they inherit it, they have to pay income tax on every single dollar that they withdraw. Fourth, and this is a big one, let's just say you have a spouse and you have an IRA and your goal is to preserve that IRA. So you end up leaving the most amount possible for your spouse. So whenever you hit age 73 and you have those required minimum distributions, you end up just taking the minimum because you say, I don't really need the money. So I'm just going to take out the minimum amount possible so that I can preserve the most amount for my spouse. And then you end up passing away. So your IRA becomes your spouse's IRA. And then your spouse ends up hitting that age 73. So they have to start taking RMDs, which they start doing. The trick is now they're filing at single rates because they are a widow or a widower. When you were alive, you could have filed at married filing jointly rates, which is more friendly, which is more favorable when it comes to taxes. So even though your desire is to leave the most amount possible by only taking the required minimum distribution, you could end up leaving them less because they end up paying more in taxes. Now, what about your Roth IRA? It is tax free to them. Now, what about your taxable brokerage account? Well, they get a step up in basis, which helps them out from a tax standpoint. But your traditional IRA, they're stuck with the tax bill. And lastly, because RMDs force you to take money out, they trigger all the downstream effects we just talked about: higher taxes, more taxable Social Security, higher Medicare costs. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. Knowing that your tax deferred accounts come with all of these issues, do you have a plan in place to move some of that money into a better tax advantaged account? That could be either a taxable account or, better yet, a Roth. So the question is, do you have a plan in place for that? Because here's the thing: planning your RMDs isn't just about saving taxes while you're still alive, it's about making sure that you don't leave a mess behind for the people that you love. If your accounts aren't organized, if your family doesn't know what you have or where it is, that confusion gets handed down to them right when they're already grieving. So, before we talk about the strategies to fix the RMD problem, let's make sure you have everything in order, both for your own planning and for the people that you'll leave behind. That's exactly why we created the Retiree Estate Organizer. It walks you through organizing your entire financial picture, your accounts, your beneficiaries, your important documents, all in one place. So your family isn't left guessing in the middle of grief. It's free, takes about 10 minutes. Just click the link below. It can be in your email in minutes, and you can start to get things in order and organized today. Now, back to the RMD problem. The good news is you have control over this. You can manage this strategically. First, understand your RMD number and plan for it. Remember, you don't want to be scrambling in December, and you especially don't want to get a surprise in April because you found out that you forgot. Second, time your withdrawals throughout the year instead of taking it all at once. This can smooth out your income, and it also can keep you from locking in losses due to market timing. Now, third, consider Roth conversion in the years that your income is lower because this shrinks your tax deferred account, which means smaller RMDs down the road. Looking back, Patricia told me later that the years between 64 and 73 were actually her best window to do something about this. Her income was lower than it would be once those RMDs kicked in. And she could have converted some of that IRA to a Roth a little at a time and paid less tax on it than she ended up paying later. She told me she wished someone had explained that to her sooner. And fourth, if you're charitably inclined, you end up giving money to a church or a 501(c)(3, a qualifying charity, you may want to look into a qualified charitable distribution, something called a QCD. And this is where you can send money straight from your IRA to a qualifying charity up to the current annual limit and have it count toward your RMD without increasing your taxable income. So as of 2026, that limit is $111,000 per year and it's indexed over time. So here's what I want you to do. Have you actually looked at what a Roth conversion could do for your specific numbers? And I'm not just referring, have you heard about a Roth conversion? Have you seen an illustration showing what it would actually save you and whether it makes sense for your family? Yes or no? If it's yes, you're in great shape. If it's no, it shows you that there's work to be done. And this is the part that most people miss. RMD planning can't happen in isolation. It has to be part of your overall income strategy. So, your income plan, your tax plan, your healthcare plan, your investment plan, they all work together. One decision in one area affects everything else. And I want to invite you to watch this video here so you can further protect your nest egg and your family.